Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Thursday, the 6th of August. In the news today, Warriors may be based out of Oz next year as well. The Breakers may also be based out of Oz. Independent review has been announced for Gymnastics in New Zealand. We find out why there is no finals series in Super Rugby. We've had news from day one of England versus Pakistan. The Six Nations results have been released. We've got news from Bowls in New Zealand about their national squads. Updates about from the America's Cup about whether teams can borrow boats. And also news from the A-League as well. So lots and lots of news to cram in this morning. And let's kick off with that football news then. And last night, the Wellington Phoenix played out a 1-1 draw with Brisbane Roar. That's their second to last goal, the penultimate game in the regular season. They have one more game on a week today against the Newcastle Jets. This leaves them third in the table, 2 points behind Melbourne City, who also have a game in hand, and only 2 points ahead of Brisbane Roar in third. Now, making the top two is such a key thing when it comes to the A-League finals series, as you get a bye from the first round. And coming into the post-COVID season, the Wellington Phoenix had it within their own hands to finish second, but they just haven't been able to pull results together. The draw last night, they also drew against Adelaide United and lost that game to the Western Sydney Wanderers. And so, the results really have not been great over the last three games, which has seen them slip out of contention for that second slot, but they will still make the final series. It just means their path to win the tournament is so much harder now. Moving over to the cricket, and in a rain-reduced day, Pakistan made it to 139 for 2, with Baba on 69 and Masood on 46 not out in both at the end of play. Do join Swinging from the Hip tonight at 8 p.m, where they will we have got on a expert on Pakistan cricket who will help the boys go through and dissect all of the news from the test series there. I'm going to now hand you over to Stephen, who's going to take us through our birthdays.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to everybody tuning into New Zealand Sport Radio and birthdays. This morning, one of the best line-out jumpers in international rugby, but that was before lifting a former Women's Black Firm International Player of the Year and a former New Zealand Black Cap who was the king of swing. And that's where we start this morning. Simon Doull, born this day, the 6th of August 1969, is a New Zealand radio personality, commentator, and former international cricketer. He was a right-arm medium pace bowler who was capable of swing bowling away from the right-hander. Doull was plagued by injuries, as a result of which his international career was cut short. Playing for the New Zealand cricket team, he figured in just 32 tests and 42 ODIs, taking 98 and 36 wickets, respectively. Doull's finest hour arrived when he took 7 for 65 against India in the Boxing Day Test in Wellington, 1998. Moving right along, Kayla McAllister, born this day, the 6th of August 1988, is a New Zealand netball and rugby sevens player. She has previously played for the Northern Mystics in 2011 and was a training partner in 2012, and currently plays for the New Zealand Women's Rugby Sevens team. She hasn't for a while. In 2013, McAllister was named the World Rugby Women's Player of the Year of Māori descent. McAllister affiliates to the Te Atiawa Iwi. She is the sister of former All Black Luke McAllister. She's also the daughter of coach Charlie McAllister. And finally this day, Peter John Whiting, born this day, the 6th of August 1946, is a former New Zealand rugby union player. A lock, Whiting represented Auckland at provincial level and was a member of the New Zealand national side, the All Blacks, through 71 to 76, and was known as a superb line-out expert. He played 56 matches for the All Blacks, including 20 internationals. Seems like a very short career for Peter Whiting, the man that they called Paul Whiting, but Paul, he was pretty much the real out-and-out line-out experts who could basically hit a great vertical jump straight off the ground. So anyway, for what it's worth, happy birthday to all our recipients this morning.
And I hope they all have a wonderful day and a really nice birthday cake. Moving on then to rugby, and the Six Nations has confirmed the dates for their upcoming games. Now, if you want to get up to date on all of that, we discussed that on the Driving Mall show on a Monday evening of this week. So you can go back and listen to that recording on Acast, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio as a podcast. You want to listen to it on the go, or you can go back and watch the recording on our Facebook page. But we go through that and talk about all the games to finish off the Six Nations from this year and the games that involve Japan and Fiji in the new tournament that they're hosting in the end of year internationals. Over in Australia, and Phil Kearns has been hired to lead the Aussie bid for the 2027 Rugby World Cup bid. Yes, he is going to be the executive director of the bid team, and this is a team that has already been mentioned and is a strong team that has representatives from Andrew Forrester's group, from Qantas, also plus ex-Wallabies as well. So most of the stakeholders have been included, and also someone from Fox, I believe, have already been included. Rather interesting then that Phil Kearns, who has tried to become the CEO of Rugby Australia on the last two occasions and both times failed, has been selected to lead this. So yes, interesting move there by Australia. Moving over to Super Rugby, and Geordie Barrett has been locked in to play for the Hurricanes next year. He did have a clause in his contract allowing him to move to another Super Rugby franchise. And in the articles I've read, they say one other team was interested. And if you want to know, that was that team over there, the Blues, because there are lots of rumours that Geordie was coming up to join his brother in Auckland. But it looks like he has decided against that and will stay down there in Wellington. Also in Super Rugby, New Zealand Rugby has come out and explained why there isn't a final series for Super Rugby Aotearoa this year. The Hurricanes CEO has explained that he asked why there wasn't why to have one, but New Zealand Rugby explained that they didn't want to squeeze the Mitre 10 Cup. They wanted to keep that as the full tournament, and in doing so, they needed to give the provinces a 3-week pre-season, and with them also wanting to host the North-South game, there just wasn't time to include a final series for Super Rugby Aotearoa. So it comes down to that, folks. Clearly is that they saw the benefits, or they wanted the North-South game to help the All Blacks with preparing for their season, as well as the Mitre 10 Cup. I'm now going to hand you back to Stephen, who's going to take us through our NRL update.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Plenty happening in the league this morning. Canberra Raiders CEO calls for extensions across the board. Warriors may remain in Oz for the 2021 season, and interim coach Todd Payton expresses his disappointment with Blake Green. And we'll also look at the opening game of round 13 in the NRL. But we start this morning with the Warriors. New Zealand Warriors Chief Executive Cameron George has revealed the club may be based in Australia for the 2021 season. That's a realistic possibility, is growing by the day as COVID pandemic continues to wreak havoc across the Tasman, especially with Victoria going into full lockdown on Monday gone. The Warriors have spent all the revamped 2020 campaign in Australia, and George concedes they have had open internal discussions over the prospect of next year looking at the same. As the club continues to recruit a new head coach, George says the ongoing trans-Tasman border issue is a major factor in any potential candidate's decision to shift to New Zealand. I don't know what the next 6 months look like, George said. I don't even know if this club will be based in Australia next year or back here. These are all the major factors to employing people and major factors for people to consider if they want to work with this club at this point. There are so many balls in the air. We have to take our time and make the appropriate progress in terms of coaching and other appointments, player and staff recruitment. But George rules out any thought the club would consider withdrawing from yet another COVID-infected season. Moving right along, staying with the Warriors. Warriors interim coach Todd Payten has revealed his frustration at the departure of veteran half Blake Green. The club confirmed on Monday their move to cut ties with Green immediately, who subsequently penned a deal with the Newcastle Knights. The move did not come as a huge surprise, as Green was reportedly one of 3 players told last month to leave the club at the season's end by owner Mark Robinson, and Green was told that had he had the club's blessing to leave, he was offered a long-term deal. However, Green's deal with the Knights is only until the end of the 2020 season, and Payten says he was disappointed with the way it transpired, with his frustration directly mainly at Green, who he says went to the club earlier this year around their plans for their future. A final leg story this morning comes out of the Canberra Raiders, and they are calling for exemptions across the competition after former All Blacks SBW expensive return to the competition. Williams rejoined the Sydney Roosters last month, penning a $150,000 short-term contract. He was playing for Toronto Wolfpack in the UK Super League as part of a 2-year deal. We all know what pretty much happened there. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, Williams' move down under comes with plenty of costs due to accommodation and relocation for Williams and his family, who are currently in quarantine in a luxury Sydney apartment as part of the mandatory 14-day isolation period. It creates a hefty bill, which the Roosters are footing, but it will not count against their salary cap courtesy of the NRL. So you can just see why there is a bit of angst amongst a few people out there. But we head into what's happening on the field, and it's the start of round 13, and it starts this evening at 9:50 p.m, where the hosts, the Dragons, take on the Roosters at their home stadium in Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. And round 13, which means we've got that many rounds to go, 7 rounds to go. So we're getting towards the end of the end. I'll be back with some more league news tomorrow morning, no doubt covering this first game of round 13 tonight. Paul, I'll head back to you. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. That's me. Exit, stage left.
Thank you, Stephen. So yes, it's the beginning of the end, as you say. We're nearly at the pointy end, but we're not quite yet. So yes, do enjoy your NRL, folks, because look, as he says, it's the beginning of the end, and you never know when we'll get it back again. So folks, do enjoy your NRL while it's here. Moving on then to gymnastics, and Gymnastics New Zealand has finally appointed someone to do a independent review of the culture and behaviour that's been happening there. Former WADA boss David Howman has been appointed to lead that review. It is it's a very strong candidate, or very strong person to take on that. He has done previously similar things in other sports, as well as running WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Association. So agency, sorry. So yes, a good figure to take on that role. Gymnastics New Zealand said that they haven't that whilst they haven't set up the terms of reference for this review, here that he will have free rein to look into anything. They say, look, one of the key things is to make sure that, because a lot of the allegations have been around culture, that they don't lose sight of the facts of the fact that they need to review and update culture by when they're looking at individual cases and drilling into those. But obviously, those individual cases need to be looked at as well. So currently, he is not taking information directly to him, but information can get him via the Gymnastics New Zealand email and also via the interim complaints mechanism that New Zealand Sport have set up. So, and that is despite the Athletics Federation boss Rob Nichol claiming that the ICM was misguided, ineffective, and utterly not fit for purpose. Everyone else that has talked out about it has not agreed with that point of view. As that goes to an independent lawyer, and then will be passed on to the to Howman for the independent review, then you've got to say that's probably is it does seem like, on the surface at least, a good process to get information in. So it's good that New Zealand, the Gymnastics New Zealand, have appointed such a strong person to take on this role, and let's hope we have a full review and it does come to change. There's in another article over on Stuff as well by Zoe George, the research there says that up to 40% of women involved in aesthetic sports, including gymnastics, show eating disorders. And that is obviously a horribly high number there, and something that does need, and a culture that does need to change. Certainly, in that article, which you can go over and read on Stuff. An athlete there talks about how at the age of 12 they were using calipers to measure fat on her body, which that's not the right behavior for people for a sport. Moving over into happier news, the Winter Games is there'll be a 10-day window from the 10th to the 20th where they can where they'll be taking what's called the Obistan events, which there are 7 athletes and 2 videographers per team, and they have the they'll be able to travel around by helicopters and take shots of themselves. Other events will be free ride, park jam, big air, mountain shred, and also that videographer one over the 10-day window. So look out for news and obviously footage of that. I'm sure it's going to be a cracking event down there in the South Island. The New Zealand Breakers say there are a number of options on the table at the moment as to how their season might go ahead. One option is that it goes ahead as normal, but obviously that would require some sort of travel bubble. Another one would be that they host all of their home games either consecutively at the beginning or the end of the season. But again, that would also come down to what travel restrictions are in place. Another option is all the Australian teams relocate to New Zealand. And if there is a hub competition, style event like the SALS NBL, then they are pushing that New Zealand could be the location for that. And finally, the other option is that they go and spend the whole season over in Oz in the same way that the Phoenix or the Warriors have had to do. If that happens, then they would probably be based on the Gold Coast, not Tasmania, as has been suggested previously. COVID-19 has had a big impact on bowls in New Zealand. Normally, they would have a international squad of over 40 athletes, but that has been brought down to pretty much half that number. They've got a number of the Blacks. They've got the Blackjack squad, and then also a further 6 emerging players. But the selectors are allowed to add to this if, depending on national competitions performances in national competitions by bowlers. So yes, COVID, say, impacting the bowls in New Zealand clearly there. Over in America's Cup action, and Stars and Stripes had made a bid to be allowed to borrow a boat for part of the event, for the part of the America's Cup event or events, but that has now been turned down. They're apparently halfway through building their boat, and we'll have to see whether they will be able to finish in time and make the event. They're a long way. They're much less funded than the other teams and a long way behind. So it's unexpected that they would be competitive, even if they do make it, to be honest. Over in the NBA, and as we talk, the Grizzlies are taking on the Jazz, and they lead 45-33. Later today, the Thunder will take on the Lakers. That starts at 10:30 a.m. New Zealand time. The Lakers have qualified top in their conference, and the Thunder. So will they relax having got that, or will they be pushing on and looking at dominating the Thunder? We'll see. The Thunder currently are sat in the 6th place in the Western Conference. Over in the Tour of Poland, and there has been a horrific crash on day 1, where one of the sprinters veered across his line, and which saw one of the riders fly over the fences and hit somebody and hit an official. So yes, horrific crash there. We do hope that everyone recovers quickly in that one. An air ambulance was called, but there's been no confirmation yet of the conditions of the riders. You have now started the day the best way, up to speed with all the important sports news. Don't forget, you can listen to us on the go on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, or Acast. And folks, look, we'd really appreciate it if you do recommend us to your friends and help spread the word about the station and help grow the audience. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.